Charlie Chaplin said, this is Patreon requested spoilers.
Hey now.
That's good. I like that.
Because it's a silent movie. Pantomime.
Yeah.
Hey now.
As the title card says. Everybody, welcome to Patreon requested spoilers. This Patreon request comes from Nathan. Nathan recently rejoined the Patreon, so we're happy to have him back. He had an opening question for the boys, and I just closed it for some odd reason. Let me open that back up.
It's something like experience with silent films. Do you like them?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering about y'all's relationship to silent movies. Are there any you've seen and enjoyed? Do you find it difficult to get stoked about watching old silent movies like this? Hope this is appropriate. Looking forward. Very appropriate opening question, Nathan. I don't know. You want to go west to east? Stevie, I think that might be you. No Corey, no Mikey tonight.
Am I the Weesis?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wowza. That's gotta be a first. Experience with silent films. Not great. The most experience I have with silent films is in college. My professor, my film studies professor, we went on a run of silent films, and when you're taking a 3.5 hour course on a Thursday during the winter, it's hard to get a little stoked for it, especially when you're in a dark room with like heavy clothing and trying not to fall asleep. And this class started at like 6, so you've already eaten dinner, and didn't have a great energy for him, Pap. That's like the most experience I have with silent films. But I was excited. I was excited to watch this one.
Have you ever voluntarily watched a silent movie?
Not once.
Or only for a class, or
only for a class? Because not because it was a guy to write I had to like present something. It was like I was forced to watch this.
Okay. Josh, I feel like you probably took some film studies classes in college.
I did. I feel like Stevie just basically took my answer. I wouldn't say our professor went on a run, but it was definitely part of the curriculum going through like the IU media school at that time. I think it's not very hard for me to get stoked. I'll answer that part of the question, and you hinted at it already, Pap. If it's just me, it is kind of depressing to watch a movie this old. What comes to mind sometimes is how like all the people involved are like dead and everything. Out of the way early.
Get ready, Brett. We're gonna come to you for who's
Lots
not
of
alive
deaths.
anymore.
They're all dead.
That's just kind of a tough thought when you're alone watching it. But I do feel like if we're watching it as part of a movie club or part of a podcast like this, it's more of a feeling of like bringing new life to it. And I do really like that.
Mm. Well, this is Pappy, recording from Kalamazoo, Michigan, next Weesis. According to Letterboxd, I've seen 14 silent movies.
Whoa,
nice.
Most recently, The Artist, or I mean, in terms of like when they came out, The Artist. I don't know if you guys have feelings about The Artist. I remember liking it at the time.
I know it's really hated.
The Disaster Artist?
No, just the artist.
Just The Artist.
Just.
John Goodman starring the artist.
Yeah, I wanted to finish off the, I think it was the 2008 AFI Top 100 list, so I ended up seeing like 3 or 4 Charlie Chaplin movies for that. And I saw one Charlie Chaplin movie in a theater one time in Denver, Colorado. They did a series on like afterlife movies or movies that had elements of like heaven or something, and they played Charlie Chaplin's The Kid. And I'll tell you, that was a pretty great atmosphere because there was like a bunch of like families there, and kids loved watching Charlie Chaplin on the big screen. I was surprised at how like captivated they were. It plays for all ages. So like I do appreciate a silent film, but I think you got to focus. You know what I mean? It's not one where you can look at your phone because you might miss critical dialogue or intertitle cards.
Have you seen enough silent films to see the one where it has like the original guy looking at the other girl with lust while he's like holding hands with You know what I'm talking about?
Talking about the Garden of Eden?
No. There's like a guy.
No, Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans.
There's a man walking down a sidewalk with a woman in tow, but another woman that he finds
my
attractive walks past. So he's like glancing back at her.
Oh, the meme.
You guys know that meme.
Yeah.
That meme is from a silent film. Pappy knows, right?
I don't know. What film?
Okay, sorry.
Brett, maybe we'll look that up while you give your experience and level of stokedness for watching a silent
All
film.
I heard was, we're not going to listen to you talk. It's okay.
No, I'm going to listen.
I know.
This is Brett from Fort Wayne. Let's see. I've seen that first movie type thing, A Trip to the Moon. I think it's like 6 minutes long. I don't know, 10 minutes long. I watched The Artist and Wings for the Oscars when I watched all the Best Pictures, and I absolutely loved The Artist. I thought it was really, really cool. Wings was okay. I mean, they're 80 years apart, so, you know. And then I watched this movie. It's my first Charlie Chaplin movie.
Now, Wings, is that more known for its like cinematography?
Yes.
Where
Camera movement.
The Ryan Johnson Canto Bite shot.
Yeah. And Charlie
which is
Chaplin
crazy.
movies are more about like the physical comedy.
It's about the walking, man. How are the walks?
I found
I think there's
answers.
so much more to that, but yeah, so I don't have a lot of, do I get pumped? No, not really, but again, I really like The Artist, and you'll find out if I like this movie or not.
Pap,
We'll see.
I found answers.
I'm seeing a leak
The
from
dis-
Snopes.
The distracted boyfriend arguably came from Charlie Chaplin's 1922 short film Payday. So that is a real thing. Maybe we can put this image up on our... I think we actually have had this up on our Instagram a couple years ago.
Never heard
That's how I
Siri
know about
mine.
it.
The Charlie
There we
Chaplin well. Yeah. Infinite likes on ancient memes like that. You mentioned like the 1922 film Payday. This is the oldest film that we've ever done in the history of spoilers. 1931 City Lights. And interestingly, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the British Film Institute's Sight and Sound list, but they publish a list of the greatest movies of all time. According to them, this is the best movie we've ever done in the history of spoilers, landing at the 36th best film of all time. Stevie, I know it's probably...
We've never
Vertigo?
done a better movie than 36.
Here's the...
We never done Vertigo?
No, so here's some of the ones that I've seen that stand out that
Some
are
Like
ahead
It
of
Hot.
this. Vertigo, Citizen Kane, Singing in the Rain, Apocalypse Now, Seven Samurai, Do the Right Thing, a Josh Pivot Taxi Driver
Ooh.
at 29.
Father.
That wasn't a pivot. That was a trade up.
Trade up.
Sure. I guess, Josh, when you watch something like City Lights, do you get the sense that you're watching one of the greatest films of all time?
Nah.
Before we even get any details of the movie.
Already said nah, but I think you have to basically read to get that knowledge. I don't think you're gonna know. Man, like you can watch a bunch of old silent films, and obviously some have more quality in them than others. But I don't think you'd necessarily ever think that they are better than your top 10 like favorite modern movies. You know what I mean? You can appreciate this for its historical value, but would you put it above like E.T. or Fight Club or something? I'm just naming a couple random decent movies that I'm thinking of.
E.T., Fight Club, and City Lights, the Mount Rushmore of American film.
Pat, did you see what was the highest movie on this list before City Lights?
Mm-mm.
At number 38, Breathless.
Oh, ancient spoilers pick. Also seeing Rear Window on this list.
Yep, 40.
Nice.
So that might be the closest. I don't know. I heard the Blank Check podcast. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but they had David Elric on or whatever. And they said there's no distinction between calling a movie a best movie of all time or your favorite movie of all time. They said they reject that distinction. Isn't that not insane, Stevie? There's a difference, right? Like,
There's
That's
such a
stupid. That's
difference.
stupid.
a rational person knows those are two different words with two different meanings. Like,
Mad Max Fury Road is my favorite movie of all time, but I know it doesn't even touch either of the Godfathers. Like,
Amen, yeah.
it's a really stupid thing to say.
It's so dumb. I don't think I've ever heard anything so dumb in my life. That's really dumb.
And I know the Godfathers are pretty good, but they pale in comparison to Ace Ventura.
There you
So-
go. There you go.
We're dropping some class.
Let me hit you with some knowledge.
Ace Ventura, Breathless, City Lights, Fight Club. Stevie, then I want to come back to you then. So we're acknowledging that like sometimes things aren't our favorite, but we can acknowledge their greatness.
Yes.
Why do you think City Lights is considered the best movie we've ever spoiled in the history of spoilers?
So this is something that had to grow over time, in my opinion. I don't think people foresaw like what would happen, just for the simple fact that like, I mean, this is a rom-com, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rom-coms
Definitely.
are some of the best movies you can think of up until like, I don't know, 8 years ago, and they stopped making them. And a lot of it, I feel like, was influenced by this movie. There's so many beats and so many little things where you're like, oh yeah, I see that. I guess you could lead a lot of rom-coms back to this movie.
Please give us some of those beats off the top of your head. What are you talking about?
Like the tramp, like the girl being blind and not knowing what the tramp looked like, and then him freaking out at the idea of her getting her sight.
Mhm.
Like there's a million tropes you can think of, like in rom-coms. I can't think of off the top of my head where you're like, okay.
Aladdin.
Man saves girl.
Shallow
Yeah.
Hal?
Oh, Shallow Hal's a great one. There you go.
One thing, Pappy, to answer your question, like, not many movies that I've seen have a title sequence where it says the movie title and it's like a physical set.
Right.
It's like huge. The city lights, it's only there for like a few seconds, but they made this whole city scene with huge lights that spell out the word city lights. And that's pretty impressive, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think 99% of this was shot on a studio lot. Like only like some of the scenes when they're drunk driving the car later were actually shot on location. So all the things that you see downtown, like the opening with the statue, just like forced perspective using miniatures. And I think that's what distinguishes like a best between a favorite too. It's like that is an incredible just accomplishment for a film almost 100 years ago.
Pat,
Yeah.
here's something I picked up on that. I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but to me, it seemed really obvious when 80% of when they were driving around during that drunk driving scene, that those street blocks were closed to the public.
Probably a good idea.
I mean, there's literally no cars when they're driving over the sidewalks and stuff like that. So, I mean, again, yeah, it's smart, but I guess if I noticed it, then maybe it wasn't hidden well enough. But again, it didn't bother me. It's just something I noticed.
It's also kind of interesting that it's called City Lights, and it's not like a clear city where this is taking place, right? There's like a little bit of like a bunch of different cities
Yeah, it's supposed to be ambiguous.
because it's shot in like a studio lot.
How would you freaking know? Like,
What
what
city
are you
it is?
looking for? The Empire
Oh,
State
I mean, like,
Building didn't
yeah,
even exist
exactly.
then, did it? Like,
Maybe not.
Brooklyn
Yeah.
Bridge, man.
Well, the tramp's supposed to be British, and then when the millionaire leaves, it says he's going to Europe, and then so later it says back from Europe.
Oh, so it's in Canada. Obvious.
I mean, they're driving on the right side of the road. I don't know. Not many countries drive on, or at least the steering wheel on the right side. So.
can't you just tell by their accent?
Right.
By the
There's
speaking?
one part
By the duck
at the
squeaks?
beginning,
Kazoo.
dude. At the beginning of the movie, they give a freaking speech, and it is literally like, why do they do that?
It's like the adults in a Peanuts cartoon
Yeah.
talking. Brett, I'm interested. This is your first Charlie Chaplin movie. We call him the Tramp, and I feel like Charlie Chaplin and his character, the Tramp, have almost become interchangeable now. But this is like a specific character in a subset of movies that he started and directed. How would you characterize the Tramp based on this one movie? He's a character who went through some like evolution, but this is like peak Tramp, as they'll say. Super Tramp, if you will.
Hey, I like that.
It's hard to say. Obviously, his shoe size is about 6 sizes too big on purpose. I know Stevie will make fun of it later, but I thought the way he walked down the stairs was really funny and really impressive. He would like change his lead step like halfway down the steps, which is crazy to me.
You know why he had big shoes?
No.
Big balls. Isn't that the saying?
Something like that.
I don't think so. But anyway,
Sure, Josh.
he seemed to have a good heart, I guess, and he's poor, obviously, but
He's ungodly horny as well. Like, I feel like across all of his movies.
In real life, too.
Yeah, in real life, too.
Is that right?
He had a lot of kids, I think, by a lot of different women.
He's like Nick Cannon of the 30s.
Yeah.
or Sean Kemp, then
Hey,
Hey now.
Brett. I noticed there's an early scene where he's looking at a naked woman statue, and she's like it's a pretty detailed statue. I felt like I was a little surprised by that with such an old movie.
I was going to ask you both. This is pre-code, right? Wasn't code 34?
I think so.
So Brittany and I were kind of talking about just in the first 5 minutes, there's 3 or 4 or 5 dirty jokes. Kind of like.
What are some of them?
Brittany, what are some of the dirty jokes? She sat on that statue's face.
Yeah, the nose went up his butthole.
Yeah.
He was staring very creepily at the naked statue. So that's one of them.
Mm.
Are you talking? What do you say? Oh, wow.
Hello?
The Hays Code, by the way, was 1934. He's also, I don't know, I feel like there's also some sexual ambiguity with the Tramp too. You know what I mean? You can tell that Bugs Bunny was based off of the Marx Brothers and even a little bit of the physical comedy of Charlie Chaplin, where he'll kind of
Smooch.
Yeah, the Tramp isn't afraid to smooch a dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's Britt and I picked up on that stuff too. Some definitely homoerotic moments, especially at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Stevie, but the hopeless romantic that is the Tramp. Who's the love interest here? For the horny Tramp.
She's a girl who's selling flowers, and she is not just any girl. She's blind, and the Tramp figures that out by waving a flower in front of her eyes. I mean, this story is kind of hard to pull off because there's not a lot of talking place cards, reading place cards. So
It's not.
So much more fewer than other Charlie Chaplin movies.
So
too.
I was
factor of 10.
surprised by how few there were, and the way he's able to tell the story just by acting physically is pretty genius.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say that with Virginia Cherrill, when I was a kid,
Oh yeah,
she just seemed like an older woman. She is a babe. I get why she was a big actress. She has an old-timey look, but she is still pretty 100 years later, and that's pretty cool, I think, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's probably not pretty 100 years later, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Come on, Brett. She holds up.
Mm-hmm.
She's lost a lot of weight.
Brett, dude, what is your problem? You don't want to be. I thought you didn't want to be the death guy.
I got a morbid sense of humor. I'm just messing around. Yes, I think she's very pretty. You're right.
The scene where they meet had the Guinness Book of World Records for most retakes or reshoots of a single scene. Did you
Takes, yeah.
You read that, Brett, too?
he burned a lot of them.
Yeah, 342.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still the worst scene with them. What were they doing?
Well, I think it was just the evolution of trying to figure out how can we believably have her think that Charlie Chaplin's a millionaire?
Yep.
And so
Yep, that's exactly what it was. He couldn't figure out how to accurately portray it with like no talking, her being blind. Yeah.
and it is, I mean, pretty perfect and like seamless, right? Just in terms of like the way that the door shuts on the other car and she thinks that he's driven away. Like, I mean, it's clever the way it's whole constructed. You don't think so?
No, I think any logical viewer would realize she still has a sense of smell. And there's even a
Yeah,
time
other senses aren't very good.
she gets down on her knees and is right near his crotch when she's like digging for a flower on the ground. Come on, dude.
And you know he hasn't showered in a month.
Tramp funk from a mile away, dude.
She's blind. Her smell is heightened. Worst part of the movie. So sad they did so many retakes. It's terrible.
She goes to throw out that water and all of a sudden she goes, something smells cleaner than it did a second ago. Stevie, we meet our eccentric millionaire character too. There's only a few characters in this movie. You know what I mean? Like maybe 4 or 5 like major characters. He's probably the third most major character.
My
What's his
favorite
deal?
character.
He's great.
He's awesome.
Dude,
This
on my note, oh my God, the funniest thing to me, someone tell me you also think it was hilarious. Like every time even some minor skirmish came out and he took his coat off like he was going to fight. Oh my God, it made me laugh. It made me laugh every time. Like, dude, that was so good. Like apparently he was like a big time silent movie actor. So like he was really good at that kind of stuff.
like
It shows.
I think I call them like energy characters are important in every movie where they're not in every scene. They're not the main character, but they bring energy to every scene they're in. And I got that with the lush millionaire every time. And it's such a cheap joke. And I mean, it's not the most like, I think it's groundbreaking probably for them, but the idea that a man is like best friends with the tramp when he's hammered and then will throw him out in the streets when he's sober is the funniest thing to me. Especially,
I do also like he doesn't even remember him when he's sober.
Especially-
Like his memory is better when he's all fucked up.
when the
drunk.
tramp is like pleading with him, like tell the cops like you gave them like this money. Tell them, like
Who is this
like,
man?
Who is this? I busted up laughing with the who is this man? And I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
like
it was freaking funny.
you guys said this is like pre-Hays Code, right?
Yeah.
1 year before.
Oh, thank God. I thought those parties were pretty wild, man. I would have enjoyed to like hear like the actual like music they were listening to and what they were saying.
The level of debauchery is insane.
Yeah.
This is like during Prohibition though, right? Like you couldn't legally be out drinking.
Rich people could.
Well, they always could.
I thought it was pretty shocking to see the girls in kind of like pajamas and also like sleeping on the ground the next day. That's very like Garden State to be out, which is a much superior movie, right, Stevie? That should be top 25 on that list, Pat.
Don't get
Top 5, bro.
Pure Kino.
Isn't it super weird though to think of like people 100 years ago getting like blackout drunk and partying? You know what I mean? Like
Sleeping on the floor.
Booze has been around a long time.
it's just wild though, you know? Like that was their reality. And it was illegal too to do. There's probably that extra thrill. Was there any debauchery, Josh, of the tramp and the millionaire that you particularly liked?
I think we should say that the first time we meet the millionaire, he's hanging out down by the river with a noose around his neck, about to like hang himself or drown himself in a river or something. The scene maybe by modern standards goes on a little too long.
The second fall in the water, but even still, I was like, oh, it's still funny. But yeah, I'm with you.
If you want to dig really deep into like what this like means and stuff, it's almost like he's trying to kill himself while he's drunk and they're dunking each other in water over and over again. A baptismal moment, if you will. And then they come up and he's like, I don't want to kill myself anymore. And we're friends for life. Now, A little bit later, he does try to grab a gun and put it in his mouth or something. But after that, he does seem to leave the suicide stuff alone, right, Pap? He does seem to get better off with his friendship with Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I think he grabs a gun again towards the end with the bad guys, but
Yeah, he's trying to shoot Charlie because he's sober at that point.
there was one little joke when the rich guy's pouring the alcohol down his pants, and then he sits on the couch, and then the butler gets really mad. Then he stands up, and then he does a fake sit on the couch and like starts like cracking up. That actually made me laugh too, and it's hard to describe, but
Like he was messing around with the butler.
yeah, like he was acting like the guy told me he couldn't sit, so he's like, okay. Then he does a fake sit, and then he's like, I'm shaking my head, like giggling, like the dog in Duck Hunt. That's kind of what he does.
I love the rivalry between the tramp and the butler. Like the butler hates the tramp. Yeah. Like he thinks he has no business partying with the millionaire.
He's like opposite of the tramp. Like tramp loves drunk millionaire and hates sober millionaire, and the butler loves sober millionaire and hates drunk millionaire.
I love the scenes
said that so well.
When they're at the like dinner like restaurant thing where there's like a show.
It's so
and a party.
Impressive.
What'd you like about it?
The timing, like with this, I mean, like I just feel like so many people would have gotten burned with those cigars. Like the timing of everything was so. Now, obviously, I'm sure they did a bunch of takes, but I don't know. Just everything flowed really well, like almost like a Rube Goldberg. Just, I don't know. The cigar thing was really funny, and just, I don't know. I feel like they would have burned themselves practicing that, but that was pretty funny. When he danced, it made me laugh.
The comparison to Rube Goldberg is pretty brilliant, Brett. Not going to lie.
I wasn't sure after I said it, but it just seems like everything goes together. One thing happens and the next thing happens. And
did you guys notice that one woman come to the front of the screen and do this like gyration twerking movement?
Was it Jean Harlow? She was in this movie apparently. Really famous actress.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about? She shakes it hard.
Hard twerk?
I've never seen anything like it on screen, actually. I'll send a screenshot to you guys. I'll give you a time code.
That's the thing too, is no one back then was like drinking water to recovering from these hangovers either. They were just like going harder and harder. Like they must have been like an eternal state of feeling terrible. I also noticed in this part too, I feel like this had a tracking shot or something where it like kind of pushed in on Charlie Chaplin's feet while he was like kind of tapping to the beat, which is like it really stands out in this movie when you see something a little bit different like that and the camera moving. Then it also has the film sped up a little bit, which I think is like just them literally turning the crank of the camera at a different pace in order to achieve that like effect, which is just fucking blowing to think about. But there's an on again, off again relationship, like we mentioned, with the millionaire. Stevie, the tramp, is becoming more and more in love with the blind girl. He's got to come up with a couple different ways to make money. Do you remember any of those ways that he tried to make money?
So, blind girl's behind on the rent, right?
Mm-hmm. $22.
$22, which today would be what?
I looked it up. It's $400-something.
Damn.
That's actually not that expensive.
No, that's cheap.
No.
What was she doing? Like, why was she so bad at selling flowers?
She's blind?
I mean, just because you're blind doesn't mean you can't sell.
True, but people might take advantage of her.
She's got super smell. She knows how many.
Yeah. She knows. But I think does he become a street sweep?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
And that doesn't go to plan. And then the ultimate, maybe there's one beforehand, but the ultimate payoff is the boxing match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which had me laughing from the beginning to
What was your favorite part of that, Brett?
The first time the bell rings and he's hiding behind the ref, and then he would pop out and punch him. That, like, every time he did that, like Josh or someone might argue that it went on too long, but every time he did it, I was like, yes.
I also
No, that was better than him drowning himself 4 times.
For sure.
I
Plus,
love
every
this
time
bit.
when they punched each other, it looked so freaking funny to me.
and they punched her. It looked great. Also, when he did like the edge spear to the ref, it looked so weird. Like he was on wires almost. Did anybody catch that?
Oh, he's definitely on wires. Yeah.
Definitely on a wire.
Did you guys all rewind it and watch it
Oh
again?
yeah. I was so taken aback by it.
Dude, his pants were like pulled up. He was matrixing around. It was pretty cool.
The back of his pants are like lifted higher than the rest of his body. But I mean, yeah, it's an incredible effect. And there's no way you're seeing that on like a 1933, Cineplex somewhere. You know what I mean? Like that's probably like seamless back then.
But I loved it all. I loved the guy he boxed. He thought he was really funny.
Guys, click the link I sent you in the chat.
So this is at the party or at the dinner club.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to describe the motion that this woman's doing?
I already tried to. Please, you, Pap.
She's vibrating. She's shaking everything. Then a man comes and takes her away. And I feel like that's what gets Charlie Chaplin a little
He's all Twitter-baited.
juiced up.
She shakes her butt, thighs, chest, face. Like, it's insane what she does. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm. And even like the next shot too, with like the plate that the waiter's holding. Like I fucking got obsessed with that shot too, because like they have a couple dishes fall off. I mean, the rest are clearly like anchored to the thing, you know what I mean? But the fact that he thought to have a couple dishes fall off, so it kind of looks real, is like just a great touch. You would never ever notice that if you were watching it in real time. Josh, I thought it was cool in that whole boxing setup too. We're watching a movie from 1931, and there's a black guy in it, and there's no racial like stereotypes or jokes or anything about that. You know what I mean? It's just a black guy in a movie back then. Like that kind of blows my mind as much as anything. You know,
because think about it, Pat. Cimarron came out the same year, and we know that's got like the most stereotypical black character of all time in it.
Which one?
Cimarron.
Yeah.
Oh, Miss Lodi. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
Which is incredible too. There's no way that's a better movie than City Lights. I don't think so.
No.
Can I talk about this guy a little bit and his
Please.
character arc in this movie, Pat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want me to? I don't know if you want to spend the time on it, but
No, yeah.
he's like a cool guy. He like lights Charlie Chaplin's cigar or cigarette or something like while they're getting warmed up in the like waiting room. And Charlie Chaplin in general is just like really impressed by him and is like, if this is no words are spoken, obviously silent film, and there's not even like any text that comes up. But through everything that you see, it's very clear that Charlie Chaplin is like, if this is one of the guys fighting, I am dead if I'm in this boxing competition. But then like the twist on this guy's story is like he fights some random white dude and actually gets like knocked out. And I think there's even like a little tag on it. Stevie, do you remember like he kind of wakes up and does like one more thing in the corner, doesn't he?
He's up.
You mean when he's talking with the flower girl?
In the boxing after he gets knocked out, right, Josh?
Yeah, the black Pappy, do you remember the black guy? He maybe he just wakes up, and I was just like happy to see that he wasn't like freaking dead in the movie. He's just, he just had a good fight, got knocked out, and he's back up, and he'll fight again the next day, presumably.
I think that's like the craziest thing about like whenever I watch a Charlie Chaplin movie is like he's just yes-anding himself. You know what I mean? Because he has total creative control over everything. And I think the bit that you're talking about is like the black boxer has like some like lucky rabbit's foot and like horseshoe, right? And like Charlie Chaplin's like all about that. As he's going into it, he's like, yeah. And then a guy comes out from the previous fight. He's got a big black eye, and Charlie Chaplin like rubs a lucky rabbit's foot over his eye. Then when he realizes like his friend, the black guy, gets knocked out, he's like, oh shit, this shit isn't lucky at all. And he tries to like undo it, like does it like the reverse way or whatever. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, no, Josh, you're talking about when he gets knocked out, he comes back in, and then when the whole thing's going on where the little guy knocks out the guy who knocked out the black guy, he's in the background like shaking his head like he's awake. He's not dead. Is that what you mean, Josh?
That is what I meant, but I love the fact that Pappy colored that in because all of this takes place within like 4 or 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's not like any of these characters were in the first scene and these are like callbacks or anything. This is just like a whole different sketch or something. And I'm not saying that's bad, but I truly feel like with no words, this character, I'm a freaking terrible person. We keep saying the black guy. What is his actual name?
He doesn't have a name in the movie. I mean, like, no characters are really named in the movie, right? If you look at the opening credits, like the blind girl, the tramp, everyone's just kind of like
so
a generic.
I'll call him Boxer 2. He has a really cool arc with no word said in 4 minutes that like I'll probably remember for a while, and that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Stevie, I mean, the boxing sequence is considered one of the greatest like film sequences of all time. Were there any visual gags you found?
When his neck is tied around the rope to the bell.
Scary. Like
so much noose action.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of noose action, but it just visually it was hysterically funny to see like back to the corner, back in, back to the corner, and back in. Also, I know it dragged, but I know it goes on too long. It's one of those things where like a joke doesn't know where to leave or know when to leave. But, you know, when they're both going down for the count, I thought that was just brilliant. Like, especially like, you know, this one's down, get back up. This one's down, counting him, you know, and eventually see the tramp lose. It was pretty cool. The only thing I will say though, that was like weird to me was how hard his corner was like rubbing his inner thigh region. Like
while he's thinking about the blind girl, like there's
I mean I know it's boxing, you know, it's a leg sport, you got to have your legs, you know, but just
it
was just a little off-putting to see on screen, that's all.
All right, Josh, just to make you feel better,
Victor Alexander,
apologize to Victor Alexander's family,
dude.
He's a superstitious boxer.
He is hard to look up.
What do you mean? Why?
It took a couple Google searches, and like if you look on the City Lights full cast and crew, after the first like 5 or 6 guys, none of which are like African American, it's just like this huge list of oldies people, like 30 people. So you'd have to click on them one by one and Google their face, I guess. How did you figure it out?
Yeah, but it's because he's named Superstitious Boxer.
Superstitious boxer.
Not just stitious.
Superstitious.
I think you said something key though, Stevie, that like the tramp loses this fight.
Yes.
And I feel like everything in the language of movies feels like he should win this fight.
He should win. I mean?
Like he just gets abused and abused and abused.
You're right. The language of film says like he has to have a win at a certain point. Because the entire movie, like, which is great, he's losing. You know, he's rarely having these wins. And you think the boxing matches, you know, maybe where how you read film, he would win this, and brilliantly for the better of the actual movie, he loses.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's setting himself up for the greater win. Stevie?
Yes, which
is that what you're saying?
Yes, which is the final shot of the film. So awesome.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you would watch any previous Charlie Chaplin movies, it'd be shocking to see him get his ass kicked, right? Like we talked about how The Rock and Vin Diesel had to have like a contractual obligation of like who could get punched more times. You know what I mean? This is like the brand of Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp is infinitely bigger for its time than either of their brands are like now. He's like the most famous.
Yeah.
Like
literally
silhouette.
Made a silent movie when nobody wanted to see silent movies, and it like did really well.
Mm-hmm. And like,
I'm with you.
And to let him just like get his ass kicked like that is just like, I don't know, a choice based on art and not on like maintaining your brand. But the blind girl does eventually get her vision back. Again, I feel like it's like pretty surprising that Charlie Chaplin pulls off what ends up being a robbery of $1,000 from the millionaire. Like, it's not, there's no like happy resolution to him getting the money that she needs.
Technically, he gave it to him.
Well, and he gave him the Rolls Royce too, but that didn't seem to matter.
Oh my gosh, I just remembered a funny part. I don't want to forget.
No, go ahead. Yeah, say it.
When they're drunk driving and he says something about you driving and he goes, "Am I driving?" Dude, that made me laugh.
Charlie Chaplin like crawls over the back of the car,
pushes him away from the wheel.
Man, that was really funny.
One of the few intertitle cards. Josh, did you get emotional any point here at the end when he's giving her the money for the rent? Maybe just talk us through the character arcs first, and then how you felt about it, what actually happens.
Who mentioned the Aladdin moment earlier in the film?
Stevie?
Pappy did.
Pap?
What was that Aladdin moment?
Just that it's the
Not
same thing
revealing
as like
who you
a goofy movie, right? It's like the same. Yeah, you're lying to get the girl.
Yeah.
Not being.
There's this moment here in this scene where he's got $1,000 from this heist, basically, and he's gonna give her. All she needs is $22 to pay the rent, but he loves her at this point. So he starts to give her all the money, and he has this one like huge-eyed, wide look, and he like balls up $100 bill and shoves it in one of his pockets. So he's gonna give her
because he's poor.
Yeah, and he's gonna give her $900, and then she like thanks him and kisses him on the wrist, and he's so like taken aback that he takes the balled out 100. And this is totally like a boo when he takes a bite out of the bread.
Yeah,
and then gets all like self-conscious and gives it back to the poor kids that are like the cutest kids in the whole universe. They don't have anything to eat.
Oh my gosh.
Is that not true, Brett? You feel that?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And I just was looking at how much $1,000 was in 1930.
And
how much is it now?
It's $18,434.60.
Well, they say at one point Charlie Chaplin has to play a millionaire. So is that basically a modern day Elon Musk walking around?
It's enough money to cure blindness in 1930.
It's like, yeah, I own Twitter and BD.
I can't imagine there were that many billionaires back then. Maybe just one. I don't know. Rockefeller was rich, but maybe he didn't have $1 billion back then.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay, Pap, we got the original rom-com here. And the girl who is way too pretty for the main character guy, even though, you know, I don't know, he actually falls in love with her despite all his selfishness. And he gives her all the money, like I said. And pretty soon after that, like, she sees him. And even in his tattered clothes, and even though he's being, like, tormented by these hilarious newsies on the corner, these like teenage kids just giving him hell. They're awesome. I love those guys too. They're awesome characters. But yeah, man, it all plays out a lot like a modern day rom-com, in that like she sees the good in him, he's like willing to change his ways, and they're gonna help fix each other, I think, Pat.
I feel like she kind of makes fun of him first, though. That's what I think I didn't really like.
I think it's like supposed to be brutal, right? Like he is.
What she says to him is kind of mean.
Well, I mean, first of all, like the whole setup, right, of when he's giving her the money, she touches his hands like an extra amount. You know what I mean? So it's establishing how that bridge is going to be crossed later. But this is like the most fucked up tramp of all time. You know what I mean? He looks terrible. He doesn't have like his signature like look about him.
He's been in jail for a while.
Yeah. And I mean, he sees, I don't know, Stevie. It's like, it's hard to, like, maybe this medium fails us for like describing how great Charlie Chaplin was at emoting with like every single muscle in his face. But the look of like recognition when he finally, like, when he sees her,
it's awesome.
It's amazing. And you know exactly what a person's thinking just based on what his face is doing. It's an incredible art form.
Not just his face, but also I mean, it goes without saying, Charlie Chaplin is like one of the like great physical actors, right? Just body wise.
Oh yeah,
like
him and Buster Keaton probably, right?
Charlie. I mean, yeah, I'd say Charlie Chaplin to even a greater extent.
Did he do dangerous stuff like Buster Keaton? I guess even in this movie, that sword could have easily gone up his butthole.
Yeah.
Josh.
I think he does some pretty crazy stuff in modern times, but I haven't seen it.
I'm serious, dude. I think that was a dangerous scene to film.
I thought it did.
That was crazy.
Sorry, Stevie. Sorry, go
No,
ahead.
Yeah, sorry,
it's
Steve.
just, I was just kind of, it's something obvious I was just saying, which is, Charlie Chaplin's not, just great at emoting, but just a fantastic physical actor, and it's fun to watch.
How do you interpret those final last scenes, Brett? Like when, I mean, is it a happy ending? Because like she's being really mean to him. Like where can the story go after this? You know what I mean?
I think it is a happy ending. I think while it does come off as mean, I'm going to play the advocate of this now. I feel like maybe it was just like a harmless joke.
A mirthless chuckle.
What line are you talking about in particular?
What does she say, Pap?
You're look, I've got a conquest or something,
Yeah.
right?
I think she's kind of
And then to add insult
Making-
to injury, she's offering him money. Now. You know what I mean? Like she has no idea he gave her the equivalent of $20,000, a few months ago.
But like the last 10, 15 seconds where they're staring at each other to me is like peak cinema. So like, I think it's happy.
Do you think at this time and age, if you saw someone like that on the street, it would be okay to kind of laugh at them, kind of knowing in your mind that they don't really get what we're talking about, that we're laughing at them? And look, after all, I'm good. I'm giving them like a quarter pence piece or whatever that is. Like, you know what I mean? I honestly don't think maybe this is conjecture, but do you think in 1931 this was seen as so evil to be like, this guy on the street's kind of a bozo? I don't know.
I offered him a hay penny. What more do you want from
A
me?
hay penny. It's a wheat penny.
I mean, I don't think it was evil, but it did.
What's her line at the end, though? It kind of corrects things. She says something like,
It's you, right?
I see you now. Like, it's like from
No,
Avatar.
it's not Avatar.
I see you.
Yeah.
It is something like that, though.
You'll be right here.
I think he asks, "Can you see?" And she says, "Yes, I can see.
I can see now.
I can see now."
Yes, I can see now. Get it?
Mhm.
And then Johnny Nash, I could see clearly now, plays, and that's the end of the movie.
I mean, Stevie, is there any
Great
like
song.
ambiguity around the happiness of this ending for you? I don't know. I feel like I go back and forth when
Don't
I watch
Brixby
it.
Bear this.
What?
I think it's
a happy ending or not?
It is a happy, like, I mean, it's happy when he's looking at her, but like, what are the next 3 years like?
Get away from
Well,
me!
what's modern times?
You know?
Police, help!
Yeah.
Pappy, is she? I take it she's not in modern times since they didn't like each other.
They
but-
hated each other.
Did they really?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
even more brilliant because,
Well-
like, the final shot says otherwise.
That makes it end even better, right?
Yeah.
Actually, he fired her. Apparently,
He was firing people left and right on this movie.
he refilmed the last scene with the girl that he actually wanted, but apparently they had just shot too much with the other girl, so he went and asked for her to come back, and she said, "Okay, I'll come back for twice the salary." And he like reluctantly said yes.
Really quick, I want to get into the Stevie question. That is like, what happens next? But like,
yeah, sorry.
Charlie Chaplin's mom died during this movie. The stock market crashed like during this movie. The Great
It
Depression
took 3 years to make, right?
happened. It took 3 years to make, and not to mention like he's founding his own like distribution company, United Artists. Like no one wants to make these kind of movies anymore, silent movies. So he's like betting the farm, betting it all on trying to like produce this kind of movie. Like he's a very stressed out, neurotic, perfectionist person at this point in his career. But Stevie, what do you think happens next, though?
In the story?
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point the millionaire is going to see him again, and he's going to see her with the blind girl or the vision girl now. And I think they're going to have another fun night. And I also think that, when eventually he wakes up again or whatever, that girl will be able to quell him, and the millionaire will make the tramp's life a little easier.
What? Make
What?
her easier?
Make Charlie Chaplin's life easier?
Make
Like actually be his
life
friend when he's
easier.
sober?
Gotcha.
We've got a business now.
I
in
thought you said
downtown
made. I
City
thought you said
Lights.
make his wife easier.
Life.
Now I see. I get you.
I hope the millionaire settles down. I hope he finds someone. I feel like he needs that.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, we're in final thoughts now.
This is my
Anything.
main final thought. And this is just a place of ignorance for me. What is the deal with Charlie Chaplin's like facial look with the mustache and the high eyebrows and like the paint? Is that hearkening back to like play stuff or like I have no idea like what that is.
He's supposed to look goofy, right?
I mean, maybe he ran into a German guy during World War One. Who knows?
It's a bit of a Hitler mustache.
A bit.
Dude, first of all, Hitler copied Charlie
I
Chaplin.
know. That's why I was saying during World War One. I know.
I know Charlie Chaplin's dad was kind of like a vaudeville, but for like the London
Vaudeville.
equivalent, whatever that was, like stage guy. And he played like a well-to-do drunkard. Like that was like his character on the stage, like a drunk guy who was also rich. So I think Charlie Chaplin kind of like based his look on that. But like Charlie Chaplin's eyebrows in this movie are incredibly inconsistent. Like sometimes they look normal and sometimes they're like thick painted on like fake boys that are like not based in reality. It's kind of all over the place, but I mean it's like one of the most iconic characters of all time, right? Josh, the tramp, you know?
He is, but vaudeville was the term I was looking for earlier. But like this movie is so far back. You're getting into like huge spans of history talking about vaudeville informing this like early kind of film that we now watch and created a podcast about. And now we're going back in time and seeing this like weird lasting legacy of vaudeville. And what makes it seem weird on film is like his girlfriend and the millionaire, they look like regular people, but he's like a puppet or something in the midst of all of it.
Yeah.
I think part of it is his stature too, right? He's a
He's like 5'4", 5'5".
tiny guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Music hall is what they called it. Like vaudeville. Music hall is a type of British theatrical entertainment.
The British equivalent. Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Any
you
other?
have to have the accented features so like the people in the back row can see it, right?
That's why the early movie characters have all those huge facial expressions.
Yeah, and then when you do a close-up of it, you just see the caked-on layers complain about it 100 years
sure.
later on a podcast.
All right, so my last three gags that I thought were funny. I thought the bald guy in the sun hat and like the cheese dip was like really funny when he's trying to scoop the guy's head. Yes, at the party. With the spoon.
The star.
What
plate.
a weird joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar one where he takes the guy's cheese to wash his hand and he puts the soap back. That was really funny. Also, just some random thing that shouldn't have been that funny is when that guy's trying to pick up that cigar and Charlie and the tramp just comes and knocks him over and takes it. That's all I got. That's all made me laugh.
It's hilarious from the guy's perspective. Some dude in a Rolls Royce rolls up,
it's like, what the
pushes
heck?
him down. It takes a street
funny.
cigarette right from under.
That reminded me of Trailer Park Boys, like always smoking butts. They're like fighting
Oh,
over
gosh.
butts.
Smokes.
Only other final thought that I had was in my research. I think we've talked about this a little bit in terms of the icebox moments, but Charlie Chaplin said of continuity errors that if the audience notices a continuity error, that's a failure of the film of being too boring and not the continuity error itself. That if you were engaged with the film, you wouldn't be noticing those continuity errors. And it's not the fact that you shouldn't have them, but
he didn't have YouTube where you could just rewatch it over and over, though.
Ding. Yeah, exactly.
Pap, how do you feel about intentional continuity errors?
Ooh.
For comedic effect.
I think it's kind of hard as a person who's sight reading a movie for the first time to know what is an intentional continuity
Mighty
error.
Python and the Holy Grail when he's running at the castle.
Hilarious.
Didn't one of the scary movies have like a cop hat that gets bigger and bigger each scene?
Those are funny.
Those are hysterical.
That's kind of something that feels like Saturday Night Live-ish, though, doesn't it, Stevie? That's not true Kino.
I mean,
What about
go ahead, Pep.
what about the guy in The Stranger who had the cowboy hat? In the classroom?
Stranger.
That was just ginormous. I think it'd be Kino, right, Stevie, though?
What's that?
What's that mean?
Just like the truest artistic form of cinema.
Criterion Collection. You have a professor who wrote books on these kind of movies.
Yep.
Type thing. Any other final thoughts? Are we ready for yes or no?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We'll go east to west this time. Brett, want to give you yes or no first?
Okay, yeah, I don't... Well, I'll start by saying I'll give this a really hard yes. I like it so much more than I thought I would. I don't really like slapstick comedy, and physical comedy is not one of my favorite things, but it was like... It's almost like I've never seen physical comedy until I've seen this movie. Like, the way they did it was just really, really good. Ending was awesome. The boxing scene, I mean, that could be like a 15-minute short film, and it would be like something I could probably watch over and over again, because to me it was that funny. So hard yes, really enjoyed it. Thanks for picking it.
That's me next. Yeah, thank you again, Nathan, for being a Patreon. Bold move to choose the oldest movie in the history of spoilers. Definite hard yes for me. I think silent film is almost like a different art form than like the talkies, like normal film. Dialogue and like storytelling and delivery of lines is such a big part of movies and such a big part usually of like our discussion of a movie. It totally like reframes how we talk about or dissect or spoil a movie. And Charlie Chaplin is like in a unique position where he's unquestionably the best to ever do it. And this is, truly him at the height of his powers. And I would say, like, if you're worried if you're going to be bored or not, or if you don't know if this is like an accessible or like, good movie, like watch this movie and just really like take note of how much you can infer by the way Charlie Chaplin holds his body. And like that to me is like the artistry and the art of this whole thing. Like the way he like contorts his face, the way his posture's held, the way he interacts with the people around him. He communicates more through, his physical body language than like some of the best actors today can even do with their line delivery. I think he is well deserved to being known as one of the best actors of all time, especially considering this is like a film directed, produced, starring, and the music composed by Charlie Chaplin. I don't think we mentioned that enough.
Insane.
It is a true like creative tour de force. I mean, there's no one else who's ever done anything like this. Like even John Carpenter, right? If you're directing, producing, and writing the music, you're not starring in it, and like no one else has ever been able to do this, and it's truly next level. Great pick, Nathan. Really glad we got to do a silent film at some point. Very, 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 very hard yes for me. Josh?
I was going to do a yes or no segment where I didn't say anything for a while.
Ooh, I like that.
You kind of stole that joke at the beginning of the pod, so I'm good on that.
There's only one possible spoiler.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we'll do another silent film at some point, though, Pap, and what will you do then? Like, same joke?
Just the whole pod, silence.
Another art project, like Blackout Passion. Fair enough.
Right.
For my yes or no segment, though, I want to tell you, all listeners who maybe haven't seen this movie or maybe haven't seen it recently, one tiny little 30-second scene. Charlie Chaplin has just visited his girlfriend, and he has to leave, and he doesn't know when he'll see her again. And so he stands on this like barrel precariously to spy on her. And that's like enough. You could cut to the next scene and it's like, that's a creepy, weird thing. But there's this like extra tag on the end where his like working class neighbor, her working class neighbor, comes out. He grabs his like milk and mail, smoking a pipe, and he turns and looks and sees Charlie Chaplin in this act, this voyeuristic act, I might say. And he makes some gesture. There's no title card, but he makes a gesture like he says, like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Get out of there. And Charlie Chaplin trips and he knocks over the barrel. And it's not just a barrel sitting there. It's a barrel that's been collecting water. This is an homage to a different time where barrels in the middle of the city would just be constantly collecting water. The barrel spills and just absolutely fills this dude's whole flat. And Charlie Chaplin sprints off into an alley, jumps into the Rolls Royce that he's stolen from a millionaire, and drives off scene. And if you like that kind of stuff, you're probably going to like this movie. Big yes.
Last but not least, Stevie.
I will give this movie a very hard yes. I didn't really know how I was gonna, like it or not. I haven't seen this movie since college, and I just didn't have fond memories of being in that classroom, in a dark classroom late at night, trying not to fall asleep. But yeah, it's just a really fun movie to watch. I think it's what I would consider like the godfather of rom-coms. And I do love me a rom-com. I wish they'd make more. I don't know why they don't anymore. And, it's growing up in the 90s, there was a rom-com coming out every other week. And now it's like there's like one a year where it's like, oh, this is actually a good one. I want more. And
Stevie, Brett, we should write one.
What would it be about?
No Pappy included in that?
You can have like editorial, editorial powers or something. I don't know. You can manage the band.
Stevie, finish your yes or no, then we'll talk about the script we're going to write.
The one I would write would be about a bank robbery.
Yep.
And it would be about like a loner kid in junior high whose like junior high crush is about to move away because their parents like get new jobs in another town. And so this kid gets an idea with him and his friends to rob a bank so that she doesn't have to move. That's a rom-com.
What if he robs a bank in the other town that she's from, and that's where her like dad was going to work? So it's like a double move.
I like
so,
that.
It's like terrorism.
Yeah, see what will fucking happen if you try to move, bitch.
Whoa.
That's the name of the movie.
Well, when that movie gets made, we'll spoil it. I don't know, Josh, if you have trivia or not. But before we get to trivia, I did want to read an email that we had from loyal Patreon Austin.
Yes.
He says, Dear Spoiler Men,
Hello.
after recently becoming a Patreon, I figured I would email you and let you know my thoughts on the pod. I found spoilers when I was searching for podcasts on my favorite film, Drive.
Yes.
The first one I saw was this one, and I'm really glad I decided to listen. With a
Number
great
one in the
balance
rankings for Drive.
of
Let's go.
humor, film insight. Sorry, with a great balance of humor, film insight, and witty banter between hosts, this pod really has it all. Each host has a different personality and really brings a lot when discussing the film. Some of my favorite things about the pod are all the constant shitting on Brett,
No.
Mikey's soundboard, and my absolute favorite, the goddamn train whistle. The better part of my morning is listening to an episode, and in the most inconvenient time possibly, a solid comes through my AirPods. And let me tell you, I can't fucking stop laughing every time. This is important, Josh. This is why I want to read this before trivia. Wrapping every episode with trivia is such a brilliant idea
Okay.
to wrap a pod
Yep.
and leave the listener eager to hear the next episode. Thank you guys for keeping the episodes coming and always providing solid content. Lastly, bravo Jordan. Please never stop listening. Please never stop whistling. Sincerely,
Oh, he stopped a long time ago.
Austin. P.S. Don't let the guys get you down, Brett. Your opinion matters just as much as anyone else's. Hashtag
Wow.
stand with Brett. Sent from my iPhone. Phenomenal email, Austin. Thank you so much.
God.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I thought actually that email was interesting because Pappy,
Yeah.
people that
Please.
listen to our pod, should they have seen the movie or not going into our podcast? What do you think?
This is spoilers.
What?
My brother hasn't seen like 80% of the movies.
Really?
Yeah, he did. Well, he's
That's why I think it's interesting. I think we're towing a line where like some people like to listen to a podcast talk about the plot of the movie.
I don't.
And sometimes we're playing more to the people that have seen the movie and we're like deep diving on like small details. And depending on like who's hosting, maybe that changes. But it's kind of an interesting thing about our podcast, I think.
It's the way it's always been, and the way it shall always be. Josh, do you have trivia for real? I do have a trivia, but it's not ideal.
Do you want to do a double?
no, we can't do a double. Especially for Pappy's is long.
Mine is long. Is yours good?
It's not good, but it's short. It's the closest to.
All right, Stevie Brett. Short and good or girthy and long?
Girthy.
I want to hang out. I want to hang out with you guys
hang,
longer. Let's do
boys.
girthy.
All
Girthy,
right.
but let me go. Can we take like I gotta pee.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be
Go
like a half hour.
pee. Go
but-
pee. No, it'll go fast.
I mean, people listen to us for our girth, right?
Well, this is length and girth, so you know.
Go pee. While Brett goes pee, I'm gonna send a list of. Whoa! Don't send that column, Pappy. Send a list of actors. Let me make sure. Okay. We're going back to an old school game, a game we haven't played in a long time. Sort this shit out. Was trying to go through some older actors. Was like thinking of old actors in my head as the theme for this. I have a long list of actors. The winner tonight will be the Spoilerman, who can successfully name these actors in order of least recent birth year to most recent birth year. So the oldest actor, some of these guys are dead, to the youngest actor on this list.
Can I ask a question then?
Yes, please.
So if two people are dead, is it who was born earlier? That's what
Yeah,
you're saying?
not who lived longer. Yeah, who was born first.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yep, I randomized the order of these actors. Brett, it's sort the shit out. For the audience at home, The randomized order of actors is Orson Welles, Denzel Washington, Robert De Niro, Michael Caine, Samuel L. Jackson, James Dean, Marlon Brando, Clint Eastwood, Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jeff Bridges, Al Pacino, Charlie Chaplin. Orson Welles, Denzel Washington, Robert De Niro, Michael Caine, Samuel L. Jackson, James Dean, Marlon Brando, Clint Eastwood, Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jeff Bridges, Al Pacino, Charlie Chaplin. So the winner tonight will be the one who can say these in oldest birth year to newest birth year.
Can you give us a list?
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Newest birth year. I like that.
Eastus to Weastus then. Brett said it first, so we'll go Brett, Josh, Stevie.
Wow. My cocaine.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brett.
Number 1, Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin is the oldest. 1889.
Jesus.
Stevie.
What?
Every time you hear an age of someone older than you, you say Jesus on this spot. That's not cool.
Born in 1985? Jesus.
Damn!
Second oldest, Orson Welles.
Really?
Correct.
Well, Stevie said, God damn.
What?
1915.
Third oldest,
Let's go, Brett.
Marlon Brando.
Correct. 1924.
Is he getting enough time to Google?
No, I'm not Googling.
I don't believe he is. I don't believe he is.
I think my streaks.
You're going through a hard stretch. After the next one, it gets hard.
I will say, gosh, it's gonna be close. Next oldest, Clint Eastwood.
Correct again.
Oh, boy.
Whoa.
1930. He's 4 for 4.
Next oldest birth date, James Dean.
He's 5 for 5.
Let's go, Brett.
31.
Okay.
Keep those
This is where
fingers
it
a
gets hard,
typing.
'cause
Yeah, this is the one. You're right.
I'm not. Okay, so I got. He's gotta be about.
So it's Charlie Chaplin, Orson Welles, Marlon Brando, Clint Eastwood, James Dean.
What a
You
trap,
said?
Pap.
Chaplin, Wells. What did I say?
Brando, Eastwood, Dean. That's
Brando.
correct.
Brando, Eastwood, Dean.
The ones he has left are Denzel, De Niro, Caine, Samuel Jackson, Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jeff Bridges, Al Pacino.
Thank you, Josh.
It's gonna get real hard. I will go with Robert De Niro.
Incorrect.
Oh,
So I believe that was Josh next. Can you recreate the list that Brett?
Yep, I can. I'll say it kind of slowly for Stevie's sake. You might want to write these down a bit.
I mean, didn't
Charlie?
Brett lay the groundwork, though? Isn't that kind of like the part of the game of like keeping going is you're laying the groundwork for someone else?
I guess, or he's expected to take notes and read it every time.
You gotta say it. You gotta say each one every time.
Okay. Charlie Chaplin, Orson
Correct.
Welles, Marlon Brando, Clint Eastwood, James Dean. Brett said Robert De Niro, which was wrong. So I'm going to go with Michael Caine.
Michael Caine was born in 1933. Correct.
Okay. I'll go with De Niro after that.
Incorrect.
No way.
Ooh.
Brett, I
Incorrect.
trusted you. I trusted you.
So we got 6 so
Set
far, is
trap.
that right?
Yes.
6. Esteban, but you gotta say those 6. And then guess the next one.
All right, Chaplin, Orson, Marlon, Clint, James Dean, Michael Caine.
Mm-hmm.
Pap, can you like do like a separator for me of like who's left?
I got it, Pat.
Yeah,
Thanks, Josh.
that's great. Thank
Robert
you.
De Niro, Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jeff Bridges, Al Pacino.
I'm gonna say Al Pacino.
Come on.
Correct. Don
Nice.
Pacino, 1940.
Al Pacino, spelled with an H.
Listen, Al Pinocchio.
Al Pacino.
Pacino.
Get your busting up ours now.
Pacino.
Dang it.
Brett.
What?
This might be running downhill from here, Stevie.
Al Pacino.
Get it, Stevie.
Brett, you've never seen Tropic Thunder.
I know. I'm just making
Feature
my own
spoilers
jokes.
pick.
I know, Al Pacino, man. I'll say De Niro.
Come on.
Correct.
Nice.
1943.
Get it, Stevie. Run the rest of these.
No, they're not runnable because there's people that are real close.
Denzel is
tough.
left. Samuel L. Jackson's left. Tom Hanks is left. DDL is left, and Jeff Bridges is left.
Starman would have been in, I think, 82.
Get it, 2.
I think he was around 26 or 27 then. I'd put him in the 50s.
The power of 3.
And I want
Divide by
to.
pi.
I'll say Sam Jackson next.
Get it.
1948. Samuel L. Jackson.
Let's go.
This is runnable. Downhill from here.
Please keep doing math, Stevie.
Again,
oh my
all that's left is
God.
Denzel,
So great.
Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jeff Bridges. Who is the oldest?
I want to say the name of the five, put him in the 60s. Tom Hanks, I think.
Divide by sign.
Dude, I don't know if I can find this by these people's
Minus
movies.
Chet Hanks.
This might trip me up here, but I'll say Bridges is next.
1949.
Nice.
He's only got 3 names left. It's Denzel Washington. It's Tom Hanks. It's Daniel Day-Lewis. Who's the oldest of those 3?
It's Denzel, not Danzel.
Denzel.
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 That's how you wrote it too.
Listen, I've
Denzel.
got a lot of responsibility here.
I think Denzel was. See, I think Glory came out in 88. I think he would have been in his 20s then. That probably places him around 60. See, Tom Hanks.
7 years ago.
See, Tom Hanks, he was in Bosom Buddies.
Mm.
And that places him a little further than that. So there's Denzel, Hanks, and Daniel Day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember when My Left Foot came out. I think they came out in 80. I don't think Daniel Day is that old yet. I'll say Tom Hanks is next.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect.
I got close.
No.
That's fine.
Brett, Stevie just ate up a lot of field for you there. Can you take it to the
Okay,
house?
so Chaplin, Wells, Brando, Eastwood, Dean Cain, Pacino, De
Dean
Niro,
Cain?
Jackson,
Dean Cain.
Bridges,
Correct.
Denzel.
Denzel, Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis.
I am going to go against my better instincts, and I'm going to say Denzel Washington.
Correct,
Nice.
Brett.
Nice, Brett.
To get a hot take and to toss it to Spoiler Man, who's older, Tom Hanks or Daniel Day-Lewis?
What would suck is if I miss this and the person who didn't get any of them.
I got some.
That sorts the shit out. With
I
the
got
nature of the
some.
beast.
I didn't get any.
I'm spot. Okay. So we got Tom Hanks and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Who is
It's
older?
got to be Tom Hanks.
That's correct, Brett.
Nice.
And then Daniel
Brett.
Day-Lewis.
Correct.
Thank you.
Once again, for the audience at home, Stevie did carry the ball.
You're welcome, boys.
Charlie Chaplin, 1889. Orson Welles, 1915. Marlon Brando, 1924. Eastwood, 1930. James Dean, 1931. Michael Caine,
That's
1933. Al Pacino, the oldest of those actors, 1940. De Niro, 43. Samuel L. Jackson, 48. Bridges, 49. Bridges, 9 years younger than Al Pacino. Would not have guessed that. Denzel Washington, 54. Tom Hanks, 56. DDL, 57. But Brett, you are the winner. Take us home here. Toss us a spoiler, man. If you have a hot take, go ahead and dish that out too.
I don't really have much of a hot take. great list of actors there. But what's thanks for
Brett,
doing this movie.
you can do a Packers corner.
No, I don't want to talk about that right now.
BK talks college football. Talk about the Packers.
That's hey, that's a cut from whatever pod that was. Boy and Dynamite. No, I'm okay. IU stinks at basketball when they're supposed to be good. That's my hot take. Thanks for doing this. It's a fun movie. Take it away, Spoiler Man.
If you'd like to request an episode, hear your name read by Spoiler Man, or even just help us make podcasts, please check us out on patreon.com/spoilerspodcast. Special thank you to our patrons: Spencer, Matt Troll, Brother Brian, Nick, The Meg, Nurse Stacy, Gail, The Wolf, Barky 420, Davey Kerr, Total Movie Recall, PK, Druid King, that was Spoilers.